Welcome everybody to episode 9 of Bases and Brews with Ben and Brandon. This is our weekly podcast where we talk baseball and beer, and we stream the show live on twitch.tv/bases and brews every Friday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Come give us a follow, watch us live over there, or if you can't catch us live, go check out our YouTube or listen on any podcast services besides Apple. Just search for the channel Bases and Brews. Also, follow us on Twitter at Bases Brews to get some baseball news and some updates about the podcast. And yeah, how you doing this week, man?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. It was a good week of baseball.
Yeah, there was a lot of good baseball this week.
I've been dude. So this podcast has been great because it's been getting me to watching more games, not just like my games.
The Giants.
Yeah, not just the Giants, but just more. Just like I'll turn on the MLB channel late at night when they call it quick pitch.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've seen that. It's fucking awesome.
It's basically like red zone for baseball, right? Like
yeah. They have like all the games they're gonna go over, and it's just like out, hit, base hit, home run. Like it's double play. It's nothing. Like they don't clog up anything. There's no real like commentary other than like what was on the TV broadcast. It's pretty solid. I freaking love it.
That's cool. Yeah, I haven't looked at it because I have MLB at bat, or is that what it's called?
I think it's called the at bat.
Yeah. So if I get an update about like a no-hitter watch or something, I just throw on the game because I have access to all of them. But
that's fair.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I also have watched more baseball than I have in a while.
I don't know if I watched more than like 3 or 5 games last year during the short season.
Besides the Giants?
No, I'm talking even the Giants. Oh. Like I didn't watch. Yeah. Well, but to be fair, I really didn't watch any sports last year. I watched some football, but only for a couple weeks because like week 2 or 3, the Niners, everybody was fucking hurt. So I was like, whatever.
Yeah, you guys got pretty decimated by injuries really early in the year. But yeah, that's interesting. I actually watched a ton of baseball last year, like Indians, because there was nothing else to do. I was stuck at home anyway.
That's fair. I actually kind of get that.
But yeah, because of this, I'm watching a lot more games that aren't the Indians.
Yeah, and I'm really enjoying it.
At least like keeping up with the highlights of what's going on and stuff.
What are you drinking today?
So,
or at least what are you starting with?
I think it's the one I had last week.
Oh,
I'm cleaning out the fridge. It's called the St. Arnold Art Car IPA.
Oh, actually, no, I think you had that 2 weeks ago.
This was 2 weeks.
Because last week you had that really dope, like, bright green can.
Yeah. This one, it's like a guy dressed, man, that glare.
Yeah, that's pretty dope.
It's a guy, like, as a saint holding, like, a big beer mug.
So that one's an IPA?
Yeah, so this is another IPA. From I think St. Arnold is the name of the brewery. It's Texas's oldest craft brewery. Sorry.
Interesting.
Or that's what they claim. But I actually don't know where they are. Did not look that part up. Oh. Houston, Texas. So not as local as what I've been drinking for the most part, but
that's not so bad though. That's still fairly close, right?
Yeah, a few hours.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
What about you? What are you drinking tonight?
More of the Elysian Brewery from last week. I too am working on cleaning out the fridge. So I think the one I started with was the Blood Orange IPA that I had.
Okay.
It's really tasty. It's incredible.
That's good. I mean, yeah. It's always good when you can find something good, even that you didn't, know was going to be a good beer.
Yeah, especially grabbing stuff from Safeway, because that's where I got the 12-pack.
Nice.
Like, it wasn't like I went to... Usually I go to one of the local breweries because I have so many that are close by. But last week I didn't want to spend a ton of money, so I was like, I'll just go to Safeway. I honestly, you know what I wanted to pick up? Was Pabst Blue Ribbon. You know what they didn't fucking have? Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Why do they not have that?
They didn't have any 12-packs. They had, like, tons of cases, but I was not about to buy a 30-pack. I love Pabst Blue Ribbon, but I don't like Pabst Blue Ribbon. I don't know if I'd say that because I love Pabst Blue Ribbon. I could literally drink it every day. But I didn't want to buy a 30-pack. It'd take me way too long to go through.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot of beer.
Well, Pabst Blue Ribbon is my favorite beer.
It's still a lot.
It's funny. Everyone always gives me shit for it, but I'm like, dude, I don't know what you could say about it other than the fact that it's cheap.
I mean, it is.
Like it's got a good flavor. It's pretty crisp. It's pretty light. I mean, I guess if you don't like lighter beers, maybe that would be a complaint.
That's my biggest issue with it, is that I'm not a big fan of light beers or lighter.
But other than that, like the only real complaint is that it only costs like $12 for a 12-pack instead of $30 for a 12-pack or $20 for a 12-pack.
Right. Yeah.
I've always wanted.
Definitely not bad.
Yeah, I've always wanted to get it on tap. I've never found a place that has it on tap, though.
Do they even do
yes.
it on tap?
A buddy of mine used to be a bartender in LA, and he said it's literally the best beer he's ever had was Pabst Blue Ribbon on tap.
Interesting.
And I've never found a place that has it. Everywhere I go that has Pabst Blue Ribbon, it's from a can or a bottle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a little disappointing, but someday I will get a keg, or I will find a place with it on tap.
There you go. Yeah, just go buy a keg and rent a kegerator and just drink it all yourself.
Well, someday I want a mini kegerator like for my kitchen, but my kitchen right now I don't have nearly enough space to put one in.
Dude, my one friend, this is gonna go way out of sports here. That's all right.
We're talking beer. Yeah, we're good. This is what we do.
My one friend took a full-sized fridge, drilled holes in two sides, and put taps on them, and then put inside had the hoses, and he got two like torpedo kegs, like the tall skinny ones, and he had a kegerator basically that could hold two kegs.
That's nuts.
It was a tap on either side depending on which one you wanted.
That's rad. Your friend is a G.
It's so simple too, because like all you have to buy is like a spout thing and like a tube. Like one piece of tube is probably enough for both of them. You just cut it in half, and then you just drill two holes in the side, and like you have to get like a O-ring so that it's sealed.
You can seal it so it stays cold. Because he was still using it so he could plug in the fridge and keep everything cold, right? That was the whole point.
Right,
yeah.
Yeah, he used the fridge as it would be, and he had a like freezer in the bottom, so he had extra freezer space.
That's nuts. That's crazy. I love it, but that's crazy.
Yeah, he just found an old cheap fridge or something. I think his dad did like home remodels, and yeah, he found like an old fridge someone was gonna throw out, and like, why not? Kept it out in his garage. So it wasn't like in the house or anything. So
yeah, but then you got to go to the garage. Like I want one like behind me right here where I can just like go, hold on a sec, and just turn around and pour myself another.
Of course. But I mean, if you can have a double kegerator in your house, I would go to the garage.
No, I'd still put it. Well, I would hope I have a big enough house, and then I would just put it in the house.
Oh, okay, fair.
I mean, if I've got the kegerator, chances are I've got enough money to have a big enough house. Well, hopefully.
Right. So his was in the garage because his wife didn't want it in the house.
Okay, that's fair. I could get that. The wife might have some things to say about that, but I would be 100% down.
Well, that's all that really matters.
I mean, right? All right, let's get into hot and cold since we're going to start off with your boy. Go ahead.
All right. Shane Bieber, again. He passed this time Randy Johnson for most consecutive starts with at least 8 strikeouts. He is actually at 19. I had 18. He pitched yesterday or 2 days ago and got another one. So
Jeez.
he's actually at 19. So he, every game he does it, he's going to break his own record now. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, obviously, so yeah, that goes back to last season. But it's impressive.
It is.
That's a lot.
It's just a shame he plays in Cleveland.
Nope.
It is a shame.
We talked about this when I brought this up to you the first time. You were like, yeah, we should just combine our 2 teams and we'll have a great team. And I was like, yeah. Well, the Indians are in first place and the Giants are also still in first. I actually don't know.
Yeah, the Giants are. They're a half a game up on the Padres, and they are getting ready to play them in like 25 minutes.
Okay.
So I might be a little distracted in like 25 minutes.
Real quick podcast.
No, we're not. I'm not going to do that. But they're doing. I'll get into it in the weekly news what they're doing and why. But
okay.
we'll go through the rest of the hot and cold.
Okay. So.
But that's nuts.
Bieber is insane. Not really. Yeah, he's the best out there right now, pretty much. So this one's not really a hot. It was one of those like, oh, this is impressive. The Dodgers hit 2 grand slams in the first 2 innings of a game. They hit 1 in the first and 1 in the second.
That's
on Sunday.
That's crazy. I hate the Dodgers.
But the Dodgers are on the cold list.
Oh, yes.
The Dodgers are 4. They're actually, I think they lost last night. Let me double check.
They did lose last night.
Okay. So the Dodgers are currently 4-13 over their last 17 games.
Damn.
After going off to start the season.
They were
on pace for 125 wins or whatever it was.
So from what I understand, what's going on with them right now is they had a lot of injuries in their bullpen. Yes. And
just in general.
Yeah, in general, but they've been having a lot of guys get banged up in their bullpen, and they're losing. Their bullpen's blowing up on them.
Yeah,
which is kind of what's happening to the Giants right now. The Giants, for the beginning of the season, was able to stay away from significant injuries, but now they're starting to get banged up a little bit, which is kind of weird because it's still so early in the season. But they're in their little injury plague right now. They're, I think, 2-4 in their last 6. They went on a little road trip and they did not play well.
Yeah, the Indians have won 10 of their last 12, I think it is.
Good shit. Well,
and they just swept the Royals,
who
were in first place.
Yeah, I was gonna say, aren't they number 1 in the division now? Yeah. Look at us, bro. We're sitting at number 1 in the division.
Who would have guessed? Yeah, the Indians are also up a half a game. They are up a half a game on Chicago White Sox, 1 game on Kansas City, and then Minnesota is 6 back, Detroit's 9 back because Detroit sucks. I believe they're the worst team in baseball right now.
I haven't actually looked to see who's at the bottom.
Yeah, they're 9-23. The second worst team in all of baseball is the Twins.
Is it really?
At 11-19, but then there's a couple other teams who are 12-15 or 12 and something. Colorado, Pittsburgh, Washington. So, yeah, there's the 2 worst teams in baseball are in the AL Central.
Jeez.
I'll take it.
Well, okay, so I was listening to them talk about the way the standings were going right now, and it sounds like the NL, basically anything other than the NL West, like almost all the teams are sub 500. Like I think the Phillies were in the lead in their division and they were at 500.
Yeah, so I'll say it now. I had this in our weekly news. This is the first season in baseball history where at the 30 game mark, it is not possible. No matter what happens with any team in the league, there won't be a single team in baseball over 600 at the 30 game mark.
That's insane.
So, really good for the sport, I feel like, because there's parity. Anybody can win. Well, almost anybody.
Yeah.
Unless you're Detroit. But there's also no like powerhouse team to draw interest. I don't think it'll stay that way, but
you're probably right. It probably won't stay that way. It just kind of it baffled me. I was like, usually there's at least one or two teams that are kind of head and shoulders above the rest, and it's like, no, they're all kind of mediocre at best right now.
And a few teams got off to that start where they were gonna be, and then
kind of like the Dodgers.
The Dodgers, the Red Sox, Oakland went insane for a while and won like 13 straight or something.
Yeah, that was nuts. That was fun to watch.
So yeah, there's a few teams who just exploded out of the gate, but nobody really maintained it.
All right.
So, yeah.
This one's interesting. I don't even have a clue how to say this guy's name, so if you know how to say it.
I'm gonna go for it.
Good, because I don't think I'm brave enough to even try.
Oscar Yona.
That's much better than I would have said.
Noah. Okay, yeah. So he's a starting pitcher for Atlanta. So he hit a grand slam on Tuesday in his last start. Yeah. And he's the first pitcher to hit a grand slam in 3 years, which actually seemed really short to me. I would have expected it was longer, but
not really, because I don't know. Maybe just being a National League guy, you see pitchers get into him every once in a while, and that actually doesn't surprise me too much. That seems. Yeah. I mean, maybe I would have thought closer to 5, but I wouldn't have thought it would have been a long time, or at least too terribly long.
Right. But he has homered in back-to-back starts, which is definitely not something pitchers do regularly.
He's still not the best hitting pitcher in baseball.
Oh, no, but that's because the best hitting pitcher in baseball might be the MVP and the Cy Young. You want to talk about triple crown?
Bro, he's tied for the lead. Shohei Ohtani, he's officially tied. Unless somebody hit one today, he was tied for the lead at 10 with JD Martinez and Acuna Jr. That's unreal. He's a fucking pitcher.
Yeah.
That's actually throwing really well, too.
Yeah. No. Yep. All three of those guys are still tied at 10. JD Martinez, though, is blowing them both out of the water in RBIs.
That's not surprising.
And batting average.
But that's not surprising.
No. But yeah, so it was a really interesting stat. And then the interesting thing in the article I was reading about it was that with the universal DH coming, presumably, he could be the last pitcher to ever hit a grand slam, unless Ohtani does. Because Ohtani's not going to stop hitting.
Yeah.
So it was really kind of an interesting thing to bring up, that like that could be the last one ever.
I don't know. There's still a whole year. I don't know. You never know.
I mean, just statistically, it hasn't happened in 3 years. So the odds that another pitcher is going to hit a grand slam this year is
You're right, small. But I want more pitchers to hit so that they can go, no, we don't need a universal DH.
Yes,
although, bro,
you're batting 80.
You know who I can throw on the freaking cold list? You know who? Kurt Casale, backup catcher for the Giants.
Okay.
This man, I mean, so this guy is 100% what you call a defensive player. He caught 5 straight no-hitter, or not no-hitters, 5 straight shutouts.
Damn.
As a backup catcher. It was like every time he went out there to catch, it was just a shutout. It was nuts for a little bit.
That's impressive.
But you know what his offensive stats are? He is hitting like 115.
That sounds like all the Indians players.
115. How does someone that hits that bad even make it to the major leagues?
Well, I can tell you that the Indians' backup catcher has 4 hits this year.
But how many games has he played? Because our backup catcher plays like every 3 days.
34 at bats.
Here, I'm going to look up Casale real quick.
Our starting catcher, who has 61 at bats, is batting 131.
Yeah, so
has 8 hits on the year.
So Kurt Casale has 38 at bats. He has 4 hits as well, with a 105 batting average right now.
Yeah, that's not great.
You want to talk about the Mendoza line? He's not even like halfway. He's barely over halfway there. This is nuts.
Yeah.
Like, I've never seen a player that plays as consistently as he does hit so bad. That's not a pitcher.
I mean, that's Roberto Perez for the Indians. Like he's a career. He's played 8 years. He has a career 206 batting average.
Okay, so he's worse. Casale's career is 224. Not much better, but better.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I've become so used to the catchers being nothing but defense for the Indians that it just
blows my mind, though.
To be fair, Roberto Perez for the Indians is one of the best defensive catchers in all of baseball. Like, he's won back-to-back Gold Gloves.
That's fair.
He's real good.
Yeah, ours.
So I can forgive it. But
I guess that's true. And if he calls a good game, then I mean, you can't really be too mad at it.
Look at the Indians pitchers over the last couple of years. It's hard to be mad about anybody catching for that staff.
That's fair.
So, and like nobody runs on him ever. But yeah, that's totally fair. I need to start looking at some more cold players.
It's hard to tell just like who's doing terrible because you always see who's doing well,
right?
Without like actually diving into some of the background stuff.
Yeah, but all right. So another hot player at the moment is John Means in Baltimore. So he threw a no-hitter on Wednesday. But did you also know, not what's on here, this is something else. He's also the guy in his previous start who broke up the A's win streak when they were like raking, like they were hitting everything, and he was the one who ended their win streak. So that's at least 2 starts in a row. He's been real good.
Well, he's their ace.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean,
and people were questioning if he was actually an ace.
He's the ace on Baltimore, so I mean, like,
I guess that's fair. But I thought so there was a couple things about his game that I thought were nuts because I was at work and it was just the baseball god shining down on me. I went out to go take a break where I had service and I got the no watch notification from the At Bat app.
Yeah.
So I clicked on it so I could watch the last inning and him actually finish the no, which I thought was dope.
Yeah.
But did you see that he threw 26 of 27 first pitch strikes? That is insane.
Yeah. I don't understand how how that is the case. Like, how are they not jumping on the first pitch then? Like,
right. Especially towards the end of the game.
Right.
Uh,
But yeah, so that was also Baltimore's first complete game no hitter since 1969. They did have like a combined no hitter where like a couple bullpen guys pitched to in 86, 88. It was like the late mid to late 80s.
I hate combined no hitters. Anybody that pulls their pitcher when he's on a no hitter deserves to go to hell.
Yeah. I also get it though.
Just pitch him until he walks somebody, or pitch him until someone gets a hit. Someone's bound to.
I guess.
Like,
I
don't know.
I think though that if you ask most pitchers, they would say if I don't have it, like if I'm fading, like they would probably rather try to get the no hitter than risk giving it up because they're tired.
I guess that might be fair.
I, without asking a pitcher, I don't actually know that, but that would just be my assumption.
That's probably fair.
But
yeah, no, it was a cool game to watch the end. I love watching no hitters, but we talked for a little bit yesterday, and I just, it's really bums me out when you get a really cool thing happen in any sport, whether it's baseball, football, basketball, golf, whatever, and the call on the radio / TV just isn't that good.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I felt like the TV broadcast was for his no-hitter.
Yeah, I didn't get to watch the end of it, so I don't know, but
like, it wasn't that it was terrible, but it wasn't like, it just wasn't memorable.
Definitely watching the Baltimore broadcast?
Probably.
I was going to say, if you were watching the other team's broadcast, then it's understandable they would be like not hyped.
I don't know which broadcast I was watching because it was just from the app. I just like clicked on it and it pulled up whatever video it was. So I would assume, because I think Baltimore was at home, I would assume it was the Baltimore broadcast, but I could be wrong.
Okay. I'm just trying to think why.
I actually didn't even think about that because it very well could have been
the other team.
I don't even remember who they no hit. I don't care. It was a cool thing. But it was the Mariners.
Yep.
It could have been the Mariners broadcast.
So
I didn't even think about that.
Either way, I feel like even as an opposing team's broadcaster, I'd still be like, this is something that doesn't happen often. Like, I would be excited about it.
I would say the Giants broadcasters are pretty good about that, but even at the same time, like, it's not going to be nearly as good as the call at home.
Course. Right. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. That's one possibility as to why they might not have been as excited, but I did also see it about this after, was it Rondon who threw the second one this season?
Yes, for
the White Sox.
The White Sox, yeah. I think that's who it is.
There was a Vegas bet over under 2.5 more no-hitters this season. And there was already a third one this week. So it's the whole season to get to.
Whoever took that over might be in good shape.
Right.
I know.
Although I feel like I would have definitely taken that over. I feel like there's at least 5 a year.
The way I look at it is, what do you got to lose?
Yeah.
As long as you don't bet like huge.
Right, yeah. But yeah. So I think unless you have anything else, that's hot and cold for the week.
Nope. I'm good to start off the news though. I'll talk about the Giants real quick. So yesterday was the legend, the god. Okay, maybe that's a bit much, but Willie Mays' birthday, 90th birthday, was yesterday. Probably, I don't keep track of who's still alive, but he's probably arguably the best like legend of baseball that's still alive at this point. Like,
yeah, well, I mean, he's one of the best legends of baseball in general.
I
So
mean,
that
he's
makes
an
sense.
all-timer. You could argue that he's the best player to ever play the game. Whether
Yeah.
his because okay, and I didn't think about it this way, but I heard it from a couple local broadcast. Well, not I think they were interviewing somebody, but this was a very interesting way of putting it. You don't ever hear someone say that guy plays like Willie Mays.
That's fair.
You do hear like, oh, he pitches like Randy Johnson, or
Yeah.
he
I feel
does.
like pitchers definitely
You know what I
get
mean?
it
You
more.
you
Yeah.
hear that from players like, oh, he's a first baseman. He plays like Albert Pujols, kind of. He's a power guy. Like you see those comparisons. And maybe it's just because of like time. Because I mean, fuck,
Yeah.
he retired like almost 10 years before I was even born.
Right.
Um,
Yeah,
so
I'm sure that has something to do with it.
but you
Like,
just don't hear those comparisons with
Yeah.
him.
yeah, I would guess that it's a time thing. Like, guys try to compare people to players that everyone has seen. So, like, you know, it's hard to compare somebody to somebody no one saw play that's watching baseball. 'Cause
Yeah,
it's like, okay, what the hell does that mean?
that's fair, and that's actually fair. But that was my only like real thing. Like it's pretty cool, and they're doing like a ceremony today before the game. They're driving him
Oh,
around the
nice.
field. That's why I was saying like I'm going to be kind of distracted slightly during the opening for the Giants game.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I love when teams do that and like recognize their previous players and stuff.
Well, he is like one of the most beloved figures in Bay
Of
Area
course.
sports, like San Francisco sports in history. Like
Yeah.
when you think of
For
San
sure.
Francisco sports, he's one of maybe 3 or 4 guys you instantly think of if you're from remotely close to here.
I mean, that totally makes sense. Like you said, he's one of the best to ever play the game. So it's hard. And he played his whole career there, right?
Well, so it's weird because
for the most
he played long enough ago that he actually played as a New York Giant before they came to San Francisco.
Okay.
So he played for them and then came with them over. And he was actually, ironically, not very well liked when he came over, which is interesting looking back because, I mean, obviously now everyone sees him as this, like, you know,
Right.
god of baseball in a way.
Yeah.
But I guess he's kind of like like the modern day comparison, like character and like personality wise, is kind of like Steph Curry. He just plays with like a special joy for the game that you just don't see in a lot of people. And obviously this is just me talking off of hearing tons of people talk about him because
Right. Yeah. Of
like
course.
it was way before, like he played in San Francisco for the first time like 30 years before I was born, 20 years before I was born. But that's what people are like, people that actually watched him play or comparing him to is like a Steph Curry now. He just was better than you, and he just played with this love for the game, and he was a genuine person. So it's just really cool to celebrate, you know, him for his 90th birthday. That's fucking nuts.
Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy. But yeah, I mean, definitely no question, one of the best to ever play the game at all in any category. So, I mean, yeah. Yeah, he was, unless I'm mistaken, he was a first ballot Hall of Famer too.
I don't know for sure, but that would not surprise me at all.
I'm trying to look it up. But yeah, so another guy who is very good is Miguel Cabrera, who made some news literally like 20 minutes before we started the podcast, in passing Babe Ruth for most hits in a career. I don't know where on the list he is. Okay, here, right here, 45th most hits in history.
34th?
No, what did I just say? 45th.
Okay, 45th. Okay.
Most all time with 2,873. I mean, yeah, Miguel Cabrera for sure is a first ballot Hall of Famer. I don't think there's really any doubt about that for anybody, but yeah. So that was just cool news that literally happened right as we went live. So
yeah, I just got the notification like right after we started.
Okay. But yeah, just something cool to happen today. On the opposite side of that is the worst person at his job in all of baseball, and that's Angel Hernandez.
Bro.
The umpire for the American League. I think he's strictly American.
I don't know. I just hate that man.
He is so bad that in the Indians Royals game 2 days ago, I think, he literally missed the ball landing in the outfield, probably 3 feet from anybody.
Yeah, that was terrible. That was such a bad miss.
It wasn't even like the guy like scooped it and like it looked like it might have hit the ground or not. It was like neither guy even tried to catch it. It just bounced.
Yeah, it was bad.
And yeah, so they had the whole thing where they had to. He called them out. There were guys on base. They had to like try to run back, and then they tried to run forward. They got tagged out, and then the umpires were like, "Well, you're a fucking idiot." So now we have to figure out what to do with the runners.
Yeah, that was a disaster. And oh, by the way, Willie Mays was a first ballot Hall of Famer in 1979.
Okay, cool. I assumed, but
that's what I figured too. But I just to clarify, he was first ballot.
Okay. But yeah, and then he also missed a very blatant out or safe call at first base. He called him out and instantly got overturned. The best part of that is the video of the umpires like putting on the headsets, and it like they don't even take their hands off of the headset, and they tell him he was wrong, and they take them back off again. I'm like,
I mean, okay, so who's worse? Do you think Angel Hernandez or Joe West?
I don't know. They're both okay. I feel like Joe West gets most calls right. He's just a moron and thinks he's bigger than the game. Like, he's not a good umpire, but like, I feel like he gets more right than Angel Hernandez.
I would agree with you on that one. I think that Joe West does probably get more calls right. He just, when he fucks up, it's like, it's right. Bad. It's big.
Yeah. Right.
It's being grandiose.
Like, my biggest thing with Joe West is like how short of a fuse he has because he thinks he's better than everyone. So like, if you say anything to him, he's throwing you out of the game and he's like happy about it. But yeah. My favorite part from this is when Terry Francona went out to figure out what happened, like why the guys weren't out on the base path. He goes, "Why does this always happen when you're here?" I just love that he just like, without saying you're terrible at your job, he said you're terrible at your job.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that too.
Terry Francona is fucking awesome. But yeah, it was just a fun thing to put in the news because it's always fun to make fun of Angel Hernandez.
Dude, I love anytime I can shit on Angel Hernandez or Joe West, I'll take the opportunity. I hate those. I hate those guys. And you know what? They're the only two guys I hate because I don't know any of the other umpires because they don't make themselves bigger than the game like those two do.
Yep, you're 100% right. But yeah, so moving on, another great player in baseball, Albert Pujols, another first ballot guaranteed Hall of Famer, was cut from the LA Angels, which is insane.
I think they just did him so raw.
Yeah.
I
also understand it, though.
I'm not a fan of this at all.
I'm not either, but I get it.
And I get it for a player of somebody that's not Albert Pujols' stature.
Well, okay, but they did straight cut him, so he can go sign with another team, which I think is good for him.
What I'm hoping is I hope he goes back to St. Louis, because I think he's like 38 home runs away from 700. It's in the 30s. I think it's high 30s. I think it's like 38.
I can look really quick.
And I would love to see him get home run number 700 with St. Louis.
He might have to play more.
I think he'd have to play this year and probably next year, and possibly as like a DH or just like a backup, like fill in.
Yeah. Well, that's why a lot of people have said he would go to an American League team.
But I don't think he wants to.
He would just be able to DH.
I just don't think he wants to set that record, though, with anybody else.
Fair. He's 33 away, by the way. I don't know. I don't remember what you said, but yeah, he's 33 home runs away.
I said 38, so I was 5 off.
Okay. But yeah, so if he goes back to St. Louis, that would be awesome to see him go there. But I don't know that St. Louis is pretty good, and they're young. I don't know that they want to add Pujols, who, to be fair, Pujols is struggling hard.
Yeah, he's not had a good year so far. I mean, he's hit a few home runs, and his RBIs aren't terrible, but as far as his average and everything else this year has been pretty bad.
To be even more fair, he really hasn't been very good since he went to LA.
Well, I mean, they signed to 30, what was he, 34?
Something like that.
33 when he signed that 10-year contract.
But yeah, so I mean, I have the stats breakdown really quick, but he averaged in the 8 years, I think he was with St. Louis.
No, he was with St. Louis for 10 years.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry. 10 years in St. Louis, he averaged 328 batting average, 40 home runs, and 121 RBIs. He was an all-star 9 times out of those 11 years, and he had 3 MVPs.
Like that, people were saying
the greatest player in baseball.
Yeah, people were saying the first 10 years of his career that he was going to be the best player to ever play the game when he was said and done. And if he had kept that clip going, he probably 100% would be.
To be fair, for those 10, 11 years he was.
Well, he's like Mike Trout now, except for he got more national exposure.
Fair. But yeah, so then once he went to LA, his batting average dropped by over 70 points. His home runs per year went down by 9. His RBIs, which was the big one to me, went down by almost 50 a year, which is crazy. And he only got 1 All-Star appearance in 9 years there.
Yeah. That's what sticks out the most to me personally.
The RBIs?
No, the 1 All-Star appearance in 10 years. For having 9 in the first 10 years and only having 1 in his second 10 years.
And to be fair, the year he got an All-Star in LA, he was not good. He batted 244. He only had 90 RBIs. He had 40 home runs. But
it depends on how he started, though, because you got to remember All-Star break is halfway through the year.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know.
I mean, this season he was hitting under the Mendoza line with 5 home runs, 12 RBIs. So, power, it looked like he was still hitting for some power.
That was all he was doing.
But that was all he looks like he's got left in the tank. Which is a shame.
And, I mean, maybe this is LA finally being like, we have to do something now, which is what they've needed to do for a while. So
I'm honestly, as much as I think they did him raw and did him real dirty, I don't think you do that to someone of his stature that is guaranteed first ballot Hall of Famer. You don't just cut them.
Yeah.
But I understand what they're doing if they're trying to put a better team around like Trout and the other guys they've got, like Ohtani and all the like.
So this was yesterday, right? 2 days ago?
I think it was 2 days ago.
So
No. I think it was yesterday because I think it happened yesterday morning.
Okay. So they actually made a trade today to pick up a catcher from the Rangers.
That's interesting.
I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Well, did you see that Yachty tweeted at him already?
No.
He basically, it was in Spanish, but he basically said, "Let's team back up."
Nice.
And I'm like, dude, let's do it. Like, because apparently, like Yachty and him were like best friends in St. Louis. They were super close.
My scenario here, though, is to see him go to like New York. God, I don't want to see him in a Yankees jersey.
I think he would look terrible in a Yankees jersey.
I think everybody who I actually like would look terrible in a Yankees
Well,
jersey.
no. I mean, I actually think he would look bad. Like, he looks great in that bright ass red.
Fair.
He went from the Cardinals, which had that bright red, and then he went to the Angels, which had that bright red. Him and that bright red are just like synonymous to me.
Is what you're saying?
No, because he wouldn't look good in that dark ass blue.
Yeah, but we were red. Shane Bieber loves the red jerseys. He wears them every start, home or away. That's why he loves them, because he can pick them every single start, whether he's home or away.
No, I mean, I wouldn't even be mad at it. Go ahead. I mean,
Boston, then.
I'd be okay with Boston. Boston is one of my teams that I really like.
Boston about as much as I like New York.
Really, I always rooted for Boston. So the list of teams I rooted for was always the Giants first, and then when inevitably the Giants didn't make the playoffs, I rooted for the A's, because the A's always at least made it for a long time.
Yeah.
And then they would flame out in the first round, and then I would inevitably root for the Red Sox because I love their unis, and I've always just loved the history in Boston. And it's one of my like holy grail parks that I want to go to before they inevitably tear it down and build something else.
I've been there. It was awesome because I could say I went there, but God, that place is awful.
I don't care. I still want to go.
It's the same. So I went to, when I lived in New York, I went to Madison Square Garden multiple times, and that place is awful.
Really?
That's like, it was so cool to be like, I went to a game in Madison Square Garden, but like those places are just so old that they're just not nice places to go watch a game.
So I went to me, the wife, and my best friend and his another one of our friends went to a game during the last season that the Niners played in Candlestick before they literally just tore it down.
Yeah.
And as fun and nostalgic as that stadium was, I 100% understand why they were getting rid of the stadium. Yeah. Right. I'm a huge I don't like that they built the new stadium like an hour and a half, 2 hours away. I think they should have built a new stadium where that one sat, but that's besides the point.
I mean, you can't, because it had to be built while that one was still up. But
well, no, they still played, I think, a full season at a offsite.
Did they?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they did.
I mean, either way, but
I still think that there would have been, that was where it was going, but that's not what the zoning went for. I think it changed to like housing and fucking complexes, which is a shame because it was on the water.
The other place that was very similar to Madison Square Garden and Fenway was Wrigley.
Wrigley's another one of my stadiums I want to go to.
Super pumped I got to go to a game there, but like probably wouldn't go again.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, I don't know, maybe I'm spoiled because like the Indian Stadium it's like 22 years old now, but like they upgrade it like every 3 or 4 seasons.
That's fair.
So it's still like a really modern stadium.
See, the Giants stadium is really new in a lot of cases. It's like what? Well, actually,
like
maybe it's actually
early
not, because
2000s.
2001 was the first year they played, if I'm not
Okay.
mistaken.
The Indians were 97, so
Yeah.
they're actually 24 years.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah, it wasn't that long.
about 20 years ago, but they've done big upgrades internally in a lot of the areas. They've updated some of the lower areas. It's just much nicer. But then again, you're going there to watch baseball. You don't need a ton.
Well, right. I'm just saying, like, in general, it was just all those places I mentioned were just kind of like falling apart.
Okay, yeah, the Giants Stadium definitely is not. That's not the case.
It just wasn't a fun baseball experience. Like, especially because maybe it's because like the reason I was traveling to those places was to go, besides Madison Square Garden, but it was to go to the stadium and like look at the stadium and stuff.
That's
Like,
fair.
you know, that's like my bucket list thing, is to hit every baseball stadium. So
Yeah, we'll have to have an episode and talk about that, because that's definitely one of my bucket lists too.
We can do that with when we do our list of like our favorite stadiums and stuff.
That's a perfect idea. But let's get into the big topic for today.
Really quick, the guy the Angels traded for is Drew Butera.
Oh, okay. Okay.
He's been in the league like 11 years. He's kind of bounced around, but he's a solid player. But yeah. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into the big topic.
I'll let you open with all of the stats that you were looking at.
Okay. So this is just the big topic before we start is analytics versus old school baseball. Like which is better in our opinion,
or just has analytics gone too far?
Right. So the big one with analytics is launch angle, exit velocity. You know, that's why strikeouts are up, because guys are just hitting averages down, just because guys are swinging up at the ball trying to hit home runs. So this year, or I'm sorry, okay, I had this picked wrong, but in 2019, which was the last full season of baseball, there were 42,000 hits and 42,800 strikeouts. So that's, I believe, what they were saying was that was one of the first years where strikeouts were more than hits.
Okay.
It was a 23% strikeout percentage. So basically,
that's brutal.
23% of the time that you went to bat, it wasn't even like plate appearances, which is, you know, when you don't walk or sacrifice. It was at bats. Players were striking out 23% of the time. Now, this year, that's as of Monday, that was up to almost 24.5%. So it's up another 1.5%. So the weird trend to me is I went back and I looked up those stats from every 10 years, 1969, 79, 89, 99. And in general, they were all kind of the same. Like there was a year up and a year down, but they were within like 3 or 4%, like, you know, margin of error. One year where the pitchers were really good and one year where they were bad or something. But then in 2019, that jumped up 7%. So from the highest of those 4 years. So like that's a significant jump. And then this year, I mean, that trend's continuing. It's going up again, at least to this point. So I think that is where analytics are bad for baseball, because nobody wants to see pop-ups and strikeouts. It's not entertaining in terms of what baseball is trying to do. with their entertainment value. Like strikeouts are only fun if a pitcher's like dominating and has like 12 strikeouts and owning. But so that's my like opening thing.
Yeah. That to me just tells me that hitters are not as good hitters as they used to be. And you can average out however you want when you look across the board. If batting average is down, you can't just say, oh, pitching has gotten so much better. I actually think hitting has regressed because of a lot of these analytics. I'll do my little quick opening for this because I'm pretty like cemented in my position with analytics. I think analytics are needed to an extent, but I think there is a point at which you analyze too much and you lose a feel for the game. And I've talked about it a few times with the Giants and sitting guys and not letting the hot hand ride and some of that. But I think that's really the key thing is analytics aren't bad. Like it's good to know what stuff, like how things are breaking down. But I do think there is I wouldn't even say a touch. There's a lot of over analyzing, I feel like, in baseball right now. And I think until they can just go out there and more play the game by feel, because that's what you as a player are instinctively supposed to be doing, then I don't think we're going to see much change on that front.
Yeah. So in my mind, there's two different analytics. There is the analytics of a front office, and then there's the analytics of a player. So, in my opinion, front office analytics, I'm for going out and trying. I mean, and we've talked about this a little. Like maybe that's because I am from Cleveland, a small market team who has to rely on analytics to get players because we're not going to go out and spend 25, 30 million on a player. Like it's just not in Cleveland's budget. So I think I'm for that because I've seen it work. I mean, the Indians have been relevant for the last 15 years without really any drop off. I mean, yeah, we've had years where we're slightly up and down, but like the Indians have been in the playoffs the majority of the last years. And since we got Terry Francona, at least as of last year, we had the best record in that time span.
Okay,
like
just
total win-loss.
Just a quick note. I love Terry Francona.
Dude, he's one of the best managers. I mean, realistically, in the history of baseball.
Like, I just love Francona.
Statistically, he's great.
He's an old head. I love him for the most part.
He is, but I think he's adapted because of Cleveland.
Well, you know who else I think is a great manager that has adapted very well to the modern analytics is Joe Madden.
Yep. 100%.
I love Joe Madden. He's another guy that I love him as a manager.
I hate him because he beat the Indians in the World Series, but besides that.
I think he's a great manager. I would have been happy if when the Giants got a new manager, if they got him, he wasn't available, but
yeah,
I like his mindset. He knows when to just throw the analytics out the window, I feel like, and just go play by his gut and be like, no, there's a feeling here that I need to play this guy or I need to stick with this guy that I think modern managers don't necessarily do. My problem with a lot of the new analytics is I feel like the front office dictates what's going on the field. And I think that's a problem.
Okay. I could see what you're saying for sure. Yeah, I mean, the obvious example of that is if you watch the movie Moneyball, where like in the movie, again, don't know 100% how realistic that is, but the GM is literally like trading away players so that the manager plays the guys he wants. It's like, yeah.
So that is fairly accurate.
Yes.
The characterization of the manager, I think, was a little bit much. I don't think he was quite that combative and that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
There's really,
but
until one of them writes a book about it or something, there's not really.
But from my understanding, being a local boy, like the A's are pretty close to me, so I'm very, very familiar with Billy Beane and the Moneyball situation. It was fairly accurate. I would say, as far as like docu movies go that are based on like what actually happened, I would say that was relatively good.
Okay.
Like I said, some of the characterizations of some of the people, and I'm sure there were scenes that weren't like realistic, like going and telling Hatteberg that they wanted him to play it first, and it wasn't going to be like. I think that maybe that's a bit exaggerated,
right?
But overall, I think that movie was fairly close to on point. Okay.
Yeah,
I love that movie. By the way, we talked about it a couple weeks ago. Fucking great movie.
Yeah, go back, check out our top baseball movie episode. That was a great one.
That was a fun one. Go ahead.
But yeah, I just think when a manager, or when not even a manager, I won't even say that, when individual players look at analytics as far as, you're going to maximize your RBI numbers if you swing and try to have a launch angle of this with an exit velocity of this, and it's like, that's fine, but you'll also get RBIs if you hit a single when there's a guy on third and not try to hit a 2-run homer, or just hit the ball on the ground to the opposite side and he'll score. Like,
yeah, see, I feel like, and this is the fact that people just don't know how to bunt anymore tells me that this is more and more of a problem.
Yeah. Is watching players bunt nowadays is embarrassing.
It's ugly.
Yeah.
As someone who loves small ball and loves playing the situation, it's tough to watch sometimes because you'll see someone on second and you're like, okay, there's someone on second. There's no outs. First guy up, just bunt him over to third.
Right. Unless it's like your cleanup hitter.
Yeah, unless it's literally the best hitter on your roster, bunt him to third. To let the next guy, all he's got to do is get the ball in the air to the outfield.
Yep.
And you've won. That's one reason why I hate this whole fucking runner on the second extra innings thing, but I promise I won't digress into a rant on the extra innings thing again. But it's just situational baseball. I feel like the analytics takes away a lot of that just situational baseball that instinctively you're taught from a young age if you have good coaches.
Yeah.
It's like, what's the situation? Okay, I got a runner on second. That means I want to hit it on the right side of the field.
Right. Well, that's another issue, is that because of the, when you hit it to the opposite field, your power goes way down. So nobody hits it to the opposite field anymore.
Honestly, I don't think that's the case. I'm going to be 100% honest right now. I think that people legitimately can't hit oppo anymore.
Well, no, I agree.
In some cases, I mean, obviously you have the guys that are good at spraying. Right, you look at their spray chart and it's pretty solid. But there are guys that just either don't know how or just refuse to learn how, which dumbfounds me at a professional level.
Of course. No, I completely agree with that. I'm saying they don't know how because they were taught and trained to not hit the ball the other way because it's bad for their numbers.
But see, that would have only been
for all their numbers except for batting average.
So that would only be effective though once you get to like minor league ball though. Because I mean, like I've coached, me and you have both coached all the way up through high school. Do you talk analytics with your players? Did you ever?
No, of course. Yeah. Not, but
I mean, I'll admit I coached like 2 years ago, high school ball, where we had an iPad in our dugout where we had all the stats and the percentages. And we did talk a little bit about like, hey, this is, but it was more like, this is your batting average in a specific situation. This is what we need you to do to make that batting average better and get you on base more.
Right. And I think that's good analytics.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. I think analytics are a good thing. Like I said, like the title says, have they gone too far? I think they've gone way too far.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying, that wouldn't be taught until a minor league level. But then most of these guys are in the minor leagues for 5 years, where they're trained nothing but what the team wants. Like what the major league club wants is what's trickled down all the way through their farm system, and they're taught, don't do whatever. Don't hit the ball the other way. Don't try to hit line drives, hit the ball up. So not to mention, I mean, some of the guys in the league right now are, 20 and were born in this century. Like, I mean, where analytics have been a thing for the majority of the time they've been alive, if not all of it.
And I don't know, maybe if you go to like these crazy private schools that have, you know what I mean, with more professional style coaches, maybe they get more analytics drove into them than like at a public high school like I coached at. Right. That's very possible.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, definitely you go to some like well-known baseball school that recruits like the top tier players, like they're probably going to lean more into what's popular now.
I just feel like people don't understand, and it hurts me to watch. I feel like people don't understand situational baseball anymore because the numbers don't dictate that anymore.
Right. No, I 100% agree with you. I guess I think for front office analytics, I think I'm way more for it. But when it comes to player and manager analytics, I am not a big fan.
Well, yeah, and I agree with you. I think that if you're looking as a general manager or front office and you're like, well, who do we want to go pick up? Who would fit our system well? What other guys do we have? Yeah. What do we need? Do we need a power hitter? We don't need someone who hits for average. Do we need someone who hits for average? Do we need someone who gets on base all the time, whether they hit for average or not, because they walk a lot? Like, I understand going through all those minutia of all the analytics. That makes sense to me as far as acquiring players.
Yeah, at some point, it would be dumb not to look at numbers, like all the numbers available.
Yeah.
When you're trying to find which player is going to fit your system.
Oh, I 100% agree with that one.
I mean, yeah, that was another great line. I mean, we're going to reference Moneyball because...
Well, that's what started pretty much all of this.
Moneyball, yeah. But, yeah, at the very end of the movie, when he's talking to the owner of the Red Sox, and the Red Sox manager is like, your system is the way. Anybody who's not doing it your way is a dinosaur. Like they're ancient at this point, even a year in, because like if you don't evolve with the times, then you're not going to find those players, whether it be drafting or free agency or whatever.
See, my favorite part is when they're in the room looking at, and they're all talking about who they want to get, and he always goes, "What does he do? Gets on base." And I feel like that is so lost in baseball these days. Because just get on base. Make the defense actually play defense.
Right.
They're bound to make a mistake at some point. And if they don't, kudos to them. Like you tip your cap and go, okay, well, we did what we put the pressure on you to make the play and you beat us. Fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. And it's frustrating when you've played baseball to watch major league players not be able to do the fundamentals, because it's like, I could do this when I was 12.
Yeah, obviously not against that competition, but...
Well, of course, but like, bunting's bunting. I mean, it's not that hard to bunt.
I mean, there is a significant difference. The ball coming in at like 50, 60 miles an hour to a ball coming in at you like 95 to 100 miles an hour.
Sure, but like, I played plenty of upper 80s pitching when I was in high school. It's not like I was you know.
I guess that's fair.
Struggling with that.
I played through sophomore, so we were seeing some guys throwing some decent speed. We were seeing guys throwing
Right.
probably mid 80s, the occasional guy that threw 90s and one of the teams.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that it was easier. Like, obviously, the faster the pitching, the harder. But like, there's high school kids facing 90-mile-an-hour or upper 80s pitching and having no issue bunting the ball.
When I coached high school ball, we actually had a guy that was getting looked at by colleges that threw low 90s on a good day.
Right.
I think he was like high 80s, low 90s when he was really ramped up.
That's the way it goes when they're younger kids.
Well, yeah, and he was like 18, so
as they get older. Yeah. But yeah, it's
the whole analytics thing, it kills me. Like it physically hurts me inside when I'm watching baseball and I'm like, the easiest thing here to do is do this, and you just see people swinging for the fences.
Yep. Yeah, hit the ball the other way, bunt the ball, steal bases.
Yeah.
Like, and then we talked about it. I don't remember how many weeks ago, but the episode about like what's wrong with baseball, why people aren't watching. Where we got into that a little bit, and like that stuff is proven in like focus groups that is as or more entertaining than home runs, because it's like home runs, you hit them and it's over, and then they're on to the next guy. Like when you get guys on base and stealing bases and stuff, like it's so much more entertaining to watch.
Well, yeah, when the ball's moving around the diamond because you got double plays going, or you
Right.
got a catcher throwing to whoever, whether it's back picks to first, like that shit is fun to watch.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't know. It kills me. That's the kind of shit that kills me when I watch baseball. There's nothing that will make me turn a game off faster than like watching a game and every single person is just swinging for the fences.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, okay, whatever. They're going to strike out most of the time, or they're going to get really shitty, lazy fly balls. Yeah, they'll hit them like 300 feet in the air, but they're not going to go past the warning track, so it doesn't matter.
There was a game the other day, and I can't for the life of me remember who it was, but there was like 9 home runs in one game.
Bro, I was watching that. It was Milwaukee. I think it was Milwaukee and someone else. I was just watching the quick pitch for it, and it was just home run, other team, home run. I was like, are there 10 fucking home runs in this game? What is going on? I was like, this has got to be some kind of record, right? Or at least close to, because it was ridiculous.
I have no idea. I'm actually curious now.
Like, if I watched the full game, I probably would have been bored to tears. But watching it on the quick pitch, where it was just like all the highlights, and it was literally just one at bat, home run, next person, home run. I was just like dumbfounded. It blew me away. Because it was 10 home runs, I know for sure. It was 5 on each side, which was fucking nuts. I think it was Milwaukee that was playing. I wouldn't surprise me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure Milwaukee was one of the teams.
The record, because you were asking, is 12.
Oh, so they
2002.
Ooh, so they were close.
3 players had multiple home runs on that day. Jeez. Yeah. So 12 home runs in 2002 between Detroit and Chicago. White Sox.
Okay.
That's the record. I don't know where to look up.
I'm trying to find what the game was. Right now, because it was insane.
Yeah. So I feel like it was this one. Dodgers.
Is it the Dodgers?
Yep. Yeah. The Brewers got blown out, but it was 16-4 Dodgers.
No. That wasn't the one I was thinking of because both teams hit 5 home runs.
I don't know then.
But yeah, that game was nuts too. The Dodgers have blown some teams out this year. It's been a little bit nuts.
Actually, this was the game that the Dodgers hit 2 grand slams in the first 2 innings.
That would make more sense.
2.
God, why can't I don't even know what to.
There was 6 in this game, but either way, yeah, it's just not that entertaining to watch. Just nothing but home runs.
Yeah, honestly, I think home runs are fun, but I actually like watching the ball in play, and I like watching the ball be thrown around.
Yeah,
personally,
home runs are fun when they happen rarely,
or when they're timely.
Yeah,
like to a walk-off home run, that is a ton of fun to watch. Yeah. You know what I mean? Stuff like that, or a go-ahead home run, like that stuff is fun to watch. I can't say that's not, but I would say overall, I would take a game where the ball is constantly in play and people are throwing the ball around over 10 home runs in a game.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. But that's not the way baseball's going.
Unfortunately not, which is a bit sad because they keep trying to improve the game. And I think maybe this is me just being an old head and being a boomer, whatever the hell you want to call it, is I think that all the changes to the game that's the reason the game is declining in viewership. Yeah. Whether it be analytics, rule changes, really just those two, in my opinion. I think those two things are killing the game, and even though they think it's helping the game.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we talked about it a lot, but neither of us believe that the speed of the game is the issue. Like, it's the excitement level that's the problem. And it's just, I mean, I still love baseball and I will still watch it, but like, I'm not the one that matters because I'm going to watch no matter what.
So
the people who aren't going to watch.
So I genuinely think with some of the rule changes that I think they're looking at, I could see myself falling off of baseball pretty hard in the next like handful of years.
See, I don't think I ever could.
I mean, like I would keep track of my teams just because I can easily look up the stats and see what's going on, but I wouldn't be invested like I am now. Right. I would turn into a semi-casual fan. Because I wouldn't even consider that casual, because I probably wouldn't watch games. I probably would very rarely, unless the Giants are literally in the postseason playing, I probably wouldn't even watch them with some of the rule changes proposed.
Yeah. Well, and I think, a lot of the rule changes we've talked about are not ever going to be major league rules, but...
Fingers crossed.
Right. But
with more analytics and more stuff, that it very well could. And that scares me a little bit as a fan, because I feel like you're going to drive away some of your diehard fans to get more casual fans. And yeah, your numbers may be better, but like baseball as a whole isn't really better because it's all casual fans.
Yeah.
Well, mostly casual fans, because some of the diehards will always be diehards no matter what happens. Yeah. I love baseball, but I'm a sports fan. So if I lose track of baseball, I will put my interest into another sport. As much as I love baseball, we talked all last week. If you guys haven't seen last week's episode, that was arguably one of my favorite episodes ever. Go check it out. We talked about...
Arguably should have been our first episode ever.
Not arguably, it 100% should have. But
opportunity for us, but...
That's besides the point. But yeah, no, I love baseball, but at the same time, like if it's not fun to watch, I'm not going to watch it.
Yeah.
It's really just, it breaks it to break it down. It's that simple.
I mean, I totally get that. Like, yeah, why spend your time doing something you're not enjoying?
Like I would probably check the stats and like keep up with my teams, but like I said, I wouldn't probably actually actively watch unless my team was in the playoffs.
Yeah. Little bit of breaking news is there's about to be a no-hit watch pop up on your app.
Oh, who from who?
The Reds drew Wade Miley.
Oh, Miley's getting back into it. I like Wade Miley.
Well, I would be happy, except they're playing the Indians.
Oh, no wonder you know it was coming.
Yep. But to be fair, the game is still 0-0, so both pitchers are pitching great. But
that's terrible, though. That's like the worst thing that could happen for a pitcher that's throwing a no-hitter.
Yeah.
Is your team
no offensive support?
Yeah, just whoa, what just happened? Oh, okay, we're back.
Okay.
I don't know what just happened. Our cameras froze for a second.
Weird.
But yeah, no, there's nothing that could be worse than your team not scoring even a single run for you when you're on a no-hit bid, because there's only so long you can go before you're just out of gas.
Yeah. Yeah, it's rough, but I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
That would be awful for the Indians, because that would be the second time we would get no-hit this season already.
Wait, who did it to you guys the first time? Was that the Rendon one?
Yeah.
Oh. Ooh.
So, yep, first place in the division, but we've been no-hit twice.
Best pitcher in the league, but we got no offense.
I mean, to be fair, I said that about the Indians at the beginning of the season.
I think we joked about taking our hitting and your pitching staff and switching, or combining teams.
Yeah, but yeah, that was just a little breaking news.
We'll see if it happens. Hopefully not. I'll keep good vibes going out for your Indians if they don't get no hit again.
I'm all for no hitters, but God, when they happen to your team,
you're getting brutal to see a lot of them.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't want to see them this way. We have too many good pitchers that we should not be the ones getting no hit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's brutal. Giants look like, it's 0-0 for the Giants still, but DeSclafani, who is a starting pitcher, looks like he's in a bit of a jam. He's throwing almost 40 pitches, and he's not even out of the second inning yet. That's brutal. It's going to be a bullpen. It's going to be a bullpen game, and the bullpen's going to blow up like they have. Dude, our bullpen has blown like 9 fucking leads this year.
That sucks.
It is unreal. It sucks.
Yeah.
That's
always the worst, when you have a lead and lose it.
That's true. Late. But we've gone on a pretty gnarly tangent. So anything else you want to add on the analytics? I think we've kind of said our piece. No,
I think we're good. I think we're both kind of in agreement that, like, analytics have their place in baseball, but maybe not to the extent that they've grown to.
I would comfortably say I agree with that. I think it's gone a little too far. I think analytics are good, but they're definitely taking it a bit too far. The whole launch angle thing and all this, like, just get back to playing traditional baseball, and chances are, maybe your stats aren't as good, but your team's gonna win.
Right.
And what's more important, World Series chances or personal stats that no one's going to fucking care if you never win anything?
I mean, and maybe that's deep down, that's the whole problem, is maybe people just care about their personal stats more than they do about team stats. I don't know.
That wouldn't surprise me because the league, people get moved, I feel like, a lot more now than they ever did in the past.
Well, especially, I mean, with what baseball contracts have turned into, like, if you can go off and have a few incredible seasons, you're going to get a lot of money. I mean, like.
But see, okay, so answer me this just on a, like, what would you, as a coach, what would you rather have? Someone who's hitting 300 but only hits 5 home runs and gets a ton of RBIs because they're always getting base hits? Or someone who hits 200 but hits 60 home runs and has okay RBIs? Not a ton, but definitely not towards the bottom.
I mean, I would say, well, I don't know. I mean, if a guy leads the league in home runs, he's almost always at the top of the leaderboard for RBIs. But the guy that hits 300 isn't just getting the RBIs, he's also getting on base to get hit in too. So, like, he's going to score the runs on top of, hitting runs in. So,
I'm very much of the Billy Bean philosophy of, does he get on base?
Right.
So I would take less home runs over more RBIs and more on base percentage where you have the potential to score runs.
Right.
Any day, every day. That wouldn't even be a question for me.
I will say this. I think every lineup needs that guy that's going to hit, 40 home runs. I think that's important in the middle of your lineup to have a guy who maybe doesn't hit, crazy average, but like hits 40 plus homers. Because in the world we're talking about, where you have guys who get on base a lot in front of him, I think it's good to have somebody who can hit the ball hard. But I don't want the entire team to be that.
See, I would sacrifice that guy for an entire team that always gets on base and always puts pressure on the defense. Now, I'm not saying that having that guy wouldn't be a bonus if I had other guys that could get on base.
Right, of course.
But if it's kind of like you get this guy and you don't have a whole bunch of guys that are great at getting on base, then I feel like it's kind of just a waste.
Yes.
Whereas,
and I think that's sort of the whole point of like old school, like 80s, 90s, building a lineup, is you put those guys who get on base a lot at the top, and then you have your big guy who hits, 270, but hits 40 homers, 50 homers. Like, because there's going to be guys on base, but that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. I don't know. It seems like just everybody, even leadoff hitters, are going for launch angle, which is brutal. It's brutal. It's brutal. Like I don't know how else to put it.
There are very few like true leadoff hitters anymore. Like, there's just not.
I want to argue with you, but I don't think there is an argument there. I don't think there's.
Honestly, the Indians have a really good one in Cesar Hernandez, who it's maybe 7-8 home runs a year, but he usually bats around 300.
See, I don't care if my leadoff guy hits 1 home run a year. If he gets on base and he's got an average of...
I'm just saying in today's baseball, like that's as close as you get. Or, I mean, like, recently there were guys like Billy Hamilton who hits maybe 1 a year. Like, that dude was never going to hit for power. He was so scrawny.
But he was so fast.
The dude could, if you hit the ball on the infield, you better fucking hurry, because he's going to beat it out almost every time.
Yeah. No, I agree. Billy Hamilton, so he went on the market and the Giants were actually in the market for an outfielder. And I was like, get him.
I actually just found out very recently that the Indians took him to spring training this year and he got hurt and never played for him in spring training, and they cut him.
Ooh, that's not good.
I mean, he hasn't been great. Like, the last few years, he's only batting like 260.
No, I'm kind of glad the Giants didn't pick him up, but at the same time, like that kind of speed at the top of your lineup with someone who could get on base. Whew.
I mean, at this point, I'd pick him up and put him on a postseason roster just as a pinch runner. Late game pinch runner. Steal a base, score on a base hit every single time.
That's actually not, I mean, if you got the roster spot and you don't need to fill it with something else, I could definitely see that.
I mean, there's like, what do you got to lose if you're going to lose your third, fourth guy on the bench? Like, he's not going to play in a 5-game series anyway. You're only going to play your starters.
So it depends. So, like, the Giants right now are in first on their division. If they somehow miraculously made the postseason, which I don't think is going to happen, but they have been proving me wrong every time I say something.
On pace, they're going to right now.
Yeah. So, but if they don't make if they made the playoffs, they wouldn't have a spot for someone like him. Because there is so much platooning going on that they just don't have the space.
There's that, but also on a National League team, you need your guys as pinch hitters. On an American League team, you don't need that. And Billy Hamilton is a really good defensive player, too.
That's very fair. But the Giants have 7 fucking utility outfielders right now. We don't need any more. No, I think at one point we had literally 7 on the roster, like the active roster.
They could play anywhere in the outfield.
And they keep getting moved. Like, I don't even know what our outfield looks like today. I don't know if Talkman, the guy they got from New York, who's actually been fucking pretty good, even though I was like, who is this guy? He's actually been pretty good so far. I don't know who's out there. It's the one thing I hate about the Giants, and this is one thing that kind of sparked my like desire to talk about the analytics thing, is the Giants have their GM right now is Farhan Zaidi, who is a disciple of Billy Beane. Mm-hmm. He learned from Billy Beane. Well, I don't know if he learned from him, but he worked under Billy Beane for the A's, went to the Dodgers, and basically built the Dodgers up to what they are now.
Yeah.
And then he came over here last year.
The Dodgers are very far from Moneyball.
Well, yeah, but
spend all the money.
Yes and no. So if you actually look at the guys on their roster, a lot of those guys are guys that came up in their minor league system.
That's fair. They just got really good drafts.
Or trades. And I'm not saying they didn't spend a ton of money to add people to that roster, because they 100% did. It's the fucking Dodgers. They're going to spend.
Darvish, Trevor Bauer.
Well, no, isn't you Darvish with the Padres this year?
Yeah.
They got Bauer though, for sure.
Yep.
But he kind of built that before he left and came to the Giants. And I'm hoping that in like 2 years, that's what the Giants are going to be. They're going to have drafted well over the last couple of years. They're going to have developed some guys that are good over the last, and then we're going to have a monster team of guys that people are like, whoa. But I don't know. I don't know if I trust all the analytics he's putting into this, because right now, all I see is platoon guys in almost every position, and it's really frustrating.
I mean, I think the other issue for the Giants too is that you guys have so many people stuck on your payroll. You can't really,
only until the end of this year.
Well, right, that's what I'm saying. So you can't really have you can't go get players, and
and that's why
you're just stuck behind longtime veterans.
And that's why I'm holding out till the end of this year to see what they do in this off season after this year, when those contracts come up. The problem is the Giants old guard is playing like the Giants fucking young guard. All the old guys, Brandon Belt, Brandon Crawford, Posey is having he's having an MVP caliber year if he keeps going.
It's crazy.
It's crazy to watch all these guys who have been mediocre for the last 2 or 3 years, but were studs in their first couple years. All of a sudden go back to that just absolute monsters in some respects.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting.
Because then it makes me wonder, are they going to pay these guys now? Because we talked about this. Do we pay for what they've done, or do we pay for what they're going to do?
That's one of our future topics that we will talk about.
But it worries me a little bit, but a lot of those contracts come off the books this year. This is last year for, I think, Crawford, Posey, and Belt, who are our biggest contracts by far. Everybody else other than those guys are pretty much all platoon guys.
Yeah.
And I mean,
that's how the Indians are too.
And I have no problem with paying guys that are going to perform, but if they're going to even remotely perform.
Right.
And it's still early. So the Giants, it wasn't last year, but I think it was the year before in 2019 when they were the last full season. Might have been 2018, but I'm pretty sure it was 2019. The Giants had the best record at the All-Star break.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
And we were like, okay, we got this. Like, we're good. And then we just fucking collapsed. Like, we didn't even make the playoffs. And we had the best record in the National League going into All-Star break.
Yeah.
Not just our division, in the entire National League.
I feel like that happens every year with one team. There's like one team who blows up early and then just falls apart down the stretch.
Yeah, I was talking with a guy I work with, and we were talking baseball a little bit, and he's like, "Oh, the Giants are doing so good." Just a total Giants homer, old guy in his 60s, total Giants. He was like, "Man, they're doing so good." I'm like, "Yeah, by the end of the year, they're probably going to be in third at the very least, where they belong." And he's like, "Oh no, they're doing so good." I'm like. He's like, man, that's a really optimistic point. I'm like, no, it's a realist's point. The Dodgers and the Padres have 1,000 times more talent than the Giants do. Eventually, that talent is going to seep through. It may take some time, but it's going to come out unless people get like crazy hurt.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what's happened to the Dodgers so far, but
very much so. So, and it was just kind of funny talking to someone who was a casual baseball fan, because they thought I was being super like negative, and I'm like, no, I'm just being like real, like the Dodgers.
The other two teams in the division have all-star teams.
Yeah, they have a ton more money invested in players that are, if you look at the numbers, are just better.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care what you say, they're just better.
Yeah. Guys have down years though, and I don't know. It could be a crazy year. Who knows? But
I mean, so this Giants team this year kind of feels like the 2010 Giants that won the World Series. I'm not saying they are. I'm not saying they're going to even make the playoffs, let alone get to the World Series. But just watching them, it's a bunch of guys that you don't really think are going to do much, but they kind of just keep winning.
Right.
And that's kind of the feeling I get, because the 2010 mantra was torture. Because there was no run support. It was every game was down to the last couple innings because it was a 1-1 game or a 1-0 game. Like, we were always in it, but it was torture because it was so close. Like, we couldn't just beat teams. We had to like barely eke by teams.
Right.
That's kind of what this season so far has felt like for me, watching them.
Yeah.
They've had their days where they've blown people out. Like, they beat the Rockies. They had scored 10 runs in the first inning on the first game of a doubleheader against the Rockies. Granted, the Rockies are like one of the worst teams in baseball.
Right.
But it was just nuts to see them score that many runs in the first inning.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, I think anybody would be surprised at that, even if you're a Dodgers fan. You'd be like, fuck, we just scored 10 runs in the first inning.
Yeah.
But it just kind of feels like that torture team where they're going to put the right pieces together, and it's not going to be pretty, but somehow they're going to get there. And I hope that they do as a fan, but I mean, my predictions would really not like that.
Yeah, I mean, if the Indians win the division, I could care less about my predictions.
We've got 3 World Series in the last 10 years. I don't care.
Okay,
I want to be right, damn it.
All right, end the podcast now. You keep rubbing it in like that.
It's okay. I think we're still like 5 years away from even potentially like competing for another World Series.
Yeah, I mean, you just never know with baseball, like, especially in the playoffs. You know, a team gets in, you can win. I mean, it's anybody can win in baseball playoffs. If you make it to the playoffs, you got a shot.
It's true. Well, yes and no. So the only game that is, if in my opinion, that is if you get in, you have a shot, is the wild card game. Because it's a one game winner take all. That favors the worst team of the two. The longer a series goes, the more likely the better team is actually going to win.
That's fair.
Which is why I love the wild card the way it is. I think we might disagree on that, but
yeah, we do.
I love the wild card as being a one and done, because every once in a while the worst team is going to win and maybe do something. I mean, more often than not, that's not the case, but it still brings a little bit of levity and it brings a little bit of excitement to a team that maybe would have had no shot otherwise.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's fair, but I don't know.
All right, I think I'm going to send us out here.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, thank you for watching or listening. If you're watching live on twitch.tv/Bases and Brews, then go check us out on our YouTube for previous episodes maybe you didn't catch. If you're watching on YouTube or listening to Spotify, Google Play, any of the other various podcasts, except for Apple at the moment, we love you. And if you want to come and check us out live and come and kind of throw your opinions in the chat, come and check us out at twitch.tv/Bases and Brews. We record this live every Friday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. And on that, we will see you all next week for another episode of Bases and Brews. Have a good one.
Later.